and welcome to the Growth Advantage podcast. Today I'll be speaking to Ahana Banerjee, founder and CEO at Clear, a free mobile app that helps you figure out which skincare products to use and whether they're actually working. Ahana is also an honoree of both Forbes 30 Under 30 Technology category and the Sunday Times Young Powerlist 2024. It's great to have you here, Ahana. How are you and where are you joining from today?
Thank you, Rebecca. It's a pleasure to chat with you today. I'm calling from London, and I only actually moved back to London from Oxford after living in Oxford for 4 years a couple of weeks ago. So still kind of settling back into life here. I'm so happy to be back. I did my undergrad in London, and yeah, I love the city. So really happy.
Fantastic. I'd love to get started, if it's okay, by asking you to tell me a bit more about your business and your role within it.
Yeah, so my company is called Clear. It's a free skincare app where essentially you can track the products you use, track any skincare medications that you take, and you track your progress with pictures. So you take pictures from all three angles of your face. What we then do is we analyze your images alongside tens of thousands of other images as well, accounting for parameters like your skin type, skin concerns, skin color. That also matters when it comes to skincare. And we have a database of over 3,000 brands spanning over 30,000 products. And what we do is we use all of that data to make unbiased product recommendations for consumers to, as you said in the intro, help people figure out what to use and whether what they are using is actually working. And so I started the company in the final year of my physics degree at Imperial, after having suffered already at that point for about 10 years with my own skin issues. I suffered with cystic acne from being a young teenager all the way through my teens into my 20s, and I still do get breakouts. It's an ongoing journey for me. And I was just fed up of just not knowing what to be using, not knowing if what I was doing was working. And having that science background, I really wanted to build a tool in this space of beauty that actually uses data and science to help consumers like me navigate this journey. And so I'm a technical founder, I'm a coder, if you will. So I started the company by myself, started building the app when I was at university, was able to raise some initial funding in that final year from Y Combinator, which is really what enabled me to be here almost 5 years later talking to you about what we do.
Amazing. Within the tech sector, can you share any insights on current market trends and emerging technologies? And have you noticed any recent shifts or development in these areas?
Yeah, so I think there's this little thing called AI that's come about. I think that's very much the obvious one to talk about. It's not a new concept. It's been around for a long time. I think it's just now that it's become very mainstream and sexy to talk about. I suppose the generative AI, the LLMs, and there being more tools that can help everyday people access them is fantastic. And I think that's unlocking a lot of real potential. But to be really honest with you, Rebecca, I'm the kind of person that, of course, I like to keep my eyes and ears open about new technologies and how they're impacting. And, we do use AI both in our product at Clear and also in our day-to-day operations of how we run the business.
Right.
But I think it's always important to not just jump on a trend for the sake of jumping on a trend and actually ask yourself, is this new technology actually solving a problem that I'm experiencing? And I remember very distinctly, at the time I was raising my pre-seed round for Clear, that was kind of when the Web3 crypto boom was happening. And you had a lot of these blockchain companies that were building solutions to problems that didn't quite exist. And I think witnessing that, and then, witnessing a lot of those companies very shortly thereafter not exist anymore, it made me wary about this notion of just doing something because it's a hot topic or trending. That said, that's not to say there won't be some amazing companies that come out of this AI boom in the same way there were some amazing blockchain companies that came out of 2021. I think sometimes you do have to kind of battle through the noise a little bit to make sure that the applications are always solving a problem for people, and it's not just a technology, a new shiny toy for the sake of the technology.
Absolutely, I totally understand. It's such a minefield, isn't it? There's so much out there at the moment and different uses, and I think lots of people are just becoming overwhelmed as to how do we use AI. We're being told we should be using it. What elements do we use? And then perhaps are using the wrong elements for their business and not seeing the benefits. So it's such a minefield. And like you say, it's not about using it for the sake of it. It's about using it where it will actually help to support and boost your business rather than just to say, oh, yes, we use AI.
Yeah,
Totally agree.
exactly.
What key challenges is the industry currently facing and how are these impacting your business operations or strategy?
So I think, there's so many challenges due to the pace of technology moving. I think a big one is regulation, which I know is
Right.
not the most fun thing to talk about, but the fact is that it takes longer for the laws to catch up with the changes in technology. Technology evolves very, very quickly. And I
Yeah.
think that puts especially founders like me of tech companies in a very interesting position where it's kind of our responsibility to be responsible. And that's a conscious choice, because you can then either prioritize kind of that growth at all costs, or you can do things in a way that are perhaps slightly more ethical and sort of
Yeah.
put you in a better position for when the regulations do come through. But I think because of that, it can be a little bit of a wild west at the moment of some players will just do whatever to get ahead and make the
Yeah.
most of the technology, or they may be operating in less regulated environments where maybe there is some regulation, or the regulation is much more likely to be lenient. Whereas, particularly in the EU, and I know the UK isn't part of the EU anymore, but we tend to lean more towards that side than we do with some of the American regulations that are perhaps more forgiving. And so I think sort of bearing that as an additional responsibility is definitely one of the challenges we face. I think
Right.
another one, again, with this just transformation in how things are done, is from a more kind of HR operations people perspective, because the skills that you're hiring for have now changed. There were some tasks that, previously you would need someone to do that can now very easily be automated. Or when you're, for example,
Yeah.
even hiring a technical person, a software engineer, part of being a software engineer is knowing how to debug, it's knowing how to solve problems. And before, the dawn of ChatGPT, it's a skill, it's a massive tool in your toolkit to know how to go through the Stack Overflow threads and understand what solutions people are talking about in online forums. And in the same way, being able to leverage tools like ChatGPT or Copilot, even as a technical person, can massively increase your productivity. But then it's about finding that balance of, you want to find talent and engineers that know how to use the technology, know how to use it responsibly, but
Yeah.
also aren't completely reliant on it. You still want someone that can code and still tell you when ChatGPT is wrong. And so I think that's also become a bit of an interesting balancing act, because it's just so much easier to hide behind these LLM tools, and it's more, obscure to see what a given person's skill set really is. And so I think that's definitely another challenge that's come about due to this rapid change in technology.
Absolutely, I totally agree. That the use of AI and other technology and tools has to be a balance there, like you say, between finding the people that still understand and can spot when something isn't quite right. Not completely being reliant on it 100%. I think
Yeah.
that can be where problems can arise. So it's really important, as you say, to make sure you keep that balance. And I guess it's harder now because people may come across as a good candidate for this role or that, but then you could find further down the line that they're actually so heavily reliant on AI tools that they're not actually that skilled themselves. So I guess that can be a challenge. And how about attracting new clients or adopters for your app right now? How do you go about that? And has that changed much over the last year or so?
Well, Clear is very proudly an app that has really leveraged product led organic growth. And that was something very important to me as the founder, because
Yeah,
I've kind of always thought that anyone can throw marketing budget at anything. That says nothing about what you're building. That says how much money you have to throw at marketing. And so I'd always believed in solving a problem first. Build an app that people really love, that adds value to their life. And in our case, that's, helping people on their skincare journeys, finding the right product, seeing the results. And I'm a user of my own app as well, which helps in that kind of product development cycle. And so we've really just relied on product led growth, on continuously launching new features, doing interviews with our community members to understand what they like about the app, and more importantly, what they don't like about the app, and releasing changes and new features and constantly updating, being forever in this cycle of iteration. And that has truly grown the company. We recently just hit 50,000 users, and that's with spending zero. We haven't spent a
amazing.
single penny on acquiring any of them, because we have taken such a product led approach. Now, something that I did start a couple of months ago, about a year ago actually, was looking into social media. Now, we
Right.
don't do things formally, but of course, skincare is in our domain, and it's huge on social media, especially amongst my generation and
Yeah.
younger. I've always been a bit hesitant of just blindly throwing money into things if I'm not sure that they haven't worked. I like to take a bit of a measured approach where I, conduct some experiments, and then I can more clearly say, okay, if we put X budget in, we will get Y return. And so what that translated to as far as marketing strategy was me making 3 TikToks a day just to see what worked, just to try and
Yeah.
learn as quickly as possible. And so I started with a completely fresh account, no followers, no posts, no sort of personal branding. And I just really try to figure out what's the narrative that helps people understand what we do. And I found that that narrative is, I am a young woman with acne who can code, and I built an app to solve my problem. And that's the story that I tell. And because I've had quite an extreme skin transformation of my own, in part due to the Clear app, I can show people visually how my skin has changed over the years. And it's all documented in my app as well, which is really, really nice. And so, I think over the past year or so, I've figured out the kind of messaging that resonates well with our target customer, and just double down on that strategy. But it's all very scrappy. It's on my little iPhone 12 mini at home, in my room. So there's no budget, no production as such behind it. And that's kind of still gotten us the level of growth that has allowed the app to kind of get to where it is today.
Fantastic. And going forward, what marketing tools might you consider implementing for the business?
We are very fortunate on Clear to have a very large community portion to the app. So, in addition to the routine tracking, users can share their skincare questions, they can share product reviews, they can connect with other members. And
Right.
so, I really want to lean into this sort of community led marketing. There's a lot of consumer brands that have done this well. A brand that I, really look up to in their community strategy is brands like Gymshark, which have almost
Yeah.
created an ambassador network out of their Gymshark athletes, and it feels very organic. These are all content creators who are already making content in this space, and it's kind of a prestige to be part of that community and share it. And that's of course done amazing things for their business, but it's really created a sense of community. It doesn't feel elitist or like it's only for performance athletes. It's opened up this athletic wear to everyone. And I see Clear as a similar tool in the sense that we are sharing everyone's skin stories. This isn't about one influencer and their story. It's about everyday people who are on their own skin journeys, not just with acne, but eczema, rosacea, psoriasis, all the skin issues, organically sharing their stories and showing how Clear is help them along that. So I think we'll be doing a lot more sort of ambassador type work, a lot more community led marketing. We may even do some more in person stuff, which is interesting because we're an app, so
Yeah.
it's all remote, and Clear was built during the pandemic as well. So
Right.
it was all online. But what we found is, of course, there's a really strong pull to in-person communities. And when it comes to skin, people sometimes actually also like to see it in person. You can see it more clearly than you can sometimes online. And so just kind of experimenting with these different channels, but all kind of under the realm of community marketing, because that's what we do. That's already happening on the app, and that's how we want to continue to grow the business.
Fantastic. That sounds like a really good direction to be going in. And what does the competitive landscape in your sector look like right now?
Yeah, so investors always find it alarming that there's actually less skincare apps than you'd probably think there are,
Really?
which is, it can go both ways in that, oh, yeah, great, there's not much competition. And it's like, huh, why is there not much competition? And I think the honest answer is, how many skincare enthusiasts do you know that are also software engineers? I think it's
Good
it's a
point.
simple question, to be honest. And most people that can code would not spend their time building a skincare app, even though I think it's a great idea. And there
Definitely.
is no market leading skincare app. We have period trackers like Flow and Clue. We have fitness trackers like Strava. We have running apps like Runner. We've got calorie trackers, MyFitnessPal, but there is no market leading skincare app. And that's really what we're going after at Clear.
That's a real revelation. I hadn't been aware of that. And when you put it like that, it does make sense what you're saying. So that's really interesting. And that obviously then gives you such a big opportunity to expand and to grow before other people may jump on it, on that bandwagon. So what an exciting time for you. And how do you monetize it? Is it through advertising on the app?
No, so that would actually kind of defeat the purpose, which is to be unbiased in our recommendations. So it
Yeah.
was very, very important to me, actually, despite the suggestions of some investors, to advertise, because that is what you would expect from most apps. We have a really interesting revenue stream, well, sort of diversified revenue stream. So the first is actually on the B2B side, and it's through helping brands with their product development process. What I mean
Right.
by that is we actually run essentially claims testing schemes for brands. So a brand can come to us and they can say, we're launching a new product for people with oily, acne prone skin, and we need 50 women in the US who have this skin type, they have this skin color, they could be in this age demographic, and they need to use our product for 6 weeks, and we need to see the progress during that time period and get
Yeah.
their product reviews. And this is a major challenge for brands to do on their own. It's very hard to actually recruit product testers and reliably get the feedback on the product, because there's
Right.
no way to enforce whether someone is actually using the product or not. There's a huge amount of bias in the recruitment process, because if you are, let's say, L'Oreal, if I'm signing up to a L'Oreal program, it's probably because I want a free L'Oreal product and I'm going to give it a
Yeah.
good review no matter what, which sure is like a nice review for L'Oreal to use. But the problem is, if there is something wrong with the product, with the formulation, there's almost no way of finding out. And now I translate that same mindset into my app. If I didn't know all the things that were wrong with it, how would I have made it better? You can't.
Yeah.
You need that feedback loop. And that's something that doesn't exist in the skincare industry. It's really hard for brands to get that feedback. And that's what we do. So we offer that as a service to brands, where we recruit product testers with a very specific mandate. We give them the product for free, but because we're a tracking app, we can see if they're actually using it and we can see how their skin looks. And the testers know they don't have to give a glowing review. They just have to be honest and actually show how their skin is changing, so that the brand, if the reviews are great, they can use them in the marketing. But if they're not, they can actually take them back to the scientists, back to the lab, and actually improve the formulations and kind of be part of that whole cycle. So that's actually how we started monetizing. And only recently did we release a premium tier for the consumers with some of the more advanced skin tracking features for the skin
Right.
enthusiasts. And that's quite a typical sort of premium freemium.
Right. So it's, that's a really innovative approach, working from the B2B side with companies to allow them to use the clients as testers. That's a really, really interesting approach. So everything that you're saying so far about your app and the way you use it is really groundbreaking, I think, in the whole skincare industry. So really, really interesting to hear about how you're going around things there. And regarding the growth of the business, what are the most important metrics for you right now to keep driving that business forwards?
I think that for the last couple of years, it has always been retention, because we've indexed so heavily on product led growth. So minimizing churn, maximizing retention. And we've broken that down, of course, into the high level cohorts, but also very specific kind of actions on the app. How many of our community members, take progressive pictures every week? How many mark their skincare routines as done every day? So we break it down by specific actions that we expect our members to do. I would say now that is actually shifting more towards growth. It's more about how many users are we acquiring and through what channels, and we've still not yet allocated any budget towards it. So there's no sort of CAC to LTV as such just yet, but that is the next phase that we're about to enter, is start running some more very measured experimentation with different growth avenues to get a clearer view of the unit economics, now that we've got a premium tier as well and we've got some
Right.
clearer numbers there.
Great. And how do you manage and monitor your financial performance?
I have a great spreadsheet that I look at often. Look, I am a very sort of financially, I wouldn't say risk averse person, but I'm definitely not the kind of go big or go home kind of founder. I plan the finances to a T. I constantly review it. I'm constantly looking at our bank accounts, our cash flows, and just making sure that all the decisions that I'm making financially are putting the company in the best chance for success. So, just whether that's making sure that payments go out on time, come in on time. I block it as one of my tasks in my calendar to just continuously check the finances. Every quarter I'll do a sort of larger scale, like projection and planning, but it's nothing more sophisticated than a few lines of code
Yeah.
doing the projections and some Excel spreadsheets and feeding in our bank account data.
Sure. And what would you say takes up most of your day-to-day time within the business?
It really depends on what the exact priorities are. For a long time, that was writing code. It was all the product development work, the tech work. I would say within the last year, it's been more of sort of a split between still the coding element and product element, brainstorming new features, balanced with the monetization channels. So balanced with the launching of the premium tier, figuring out how to optimize some of those metrics, designing the paywalls, etc., figuring out
Yeah.
what features should be paywalled and not paywalled. And then also on the B2B sales side, that's kind of your more typical sales work that also
Yes.
takes up a lot of my time.
Is there anything you'd like to change about that? Ideally, if you could sort of release some of that from your shoulders, how would you like to change it?
Yeah, it's a lot of work. I didn't take a holiday for 2 years and I work most weekends. So it's a lot. I think particularly on the B2B sales side, what I've realized is that, I've seen some great success with it just being me, but it is the type of task that requires scale, in the sense of you need someone to constantly be following up, to constantly pursue new leads, and with it still being founder led sales, where I'm still the marketer and the software engineer and the
Yeah.
CEO and the accountant. It's a lot to manage. So I think that's probably one thing I would change. And the second is also on the marketing side. Um, I think growth is sort of the next phase that we'll be entering. And right now, again, it's all been founder led growth, which is great. And it's given us a fantastic understanding of, again, that narrative, that story that resonates. But it's time to kind of turn that up and scale that up. And so I think putting more resources behind that is also kind of the point that we're at now.
Fantastic. It sounds like you've got a really good vision for the next sort of 6 to 12 months. What would you say are your main business goals for that time period?
Grow the community a lot. And I think through that also achieve certain metrics with our premium subscriptions, which in turn means growing revenues,
Yeah.
but not just for the sake of making more money, but in particular to make sure that our premium offering is worth it, frankly, because our free tier is amazing. I know that the app is great, and that's what allowed us to kind of come into this next phase and start developing the premium tier, etc. And so I think it's about making sure that our premium users are getting what they pay for, and that will be reflected through the retention numbers and then through the final revenue numbers as well.
Of course. And where would you like to see the business in, say, 3 years' time?
I always find this a really tricky question, because if you'd have spoken to me, 7 years ago, I would have told you I wanted to be a physicist. 6 years ago, banker. Fortunately, 5 years ago, entrepreneur, and I definitely want to
Yeah.
continue on this path. But it's so hard to predict the trajectory of a company. I have grand visions of making Clear the Strava for skincare. I want Clear to be $1 billion business that's synonymous with the word skincare, and so hopefully I'm on my way to achieving that in 3 years' time.
Fantastic. You're obviously at the forefront of this area. Like you say, there's not many others out there doing it. So I really hope that you manage to achieve your goals. It sounds like you're very motivated and driven. So fantastic goal to have. Is there anything else finally that you'd like to share about your business, where people can find the app?
Yeah, the app is available for free on iOS and on Android. It's available globally in every country as well. With our premium tier, we're having a 50% off sale to celebrate hitting 50,000 community members. And we also have a 2-week free trial. So I'd actually love as many people to sign up to that for free, to get the premium features for free, and give us feedback. It's a new launch for us, so we're still collecting feedback. We want to know what you love, what you hate, and we continuously make improvements. So just please feel free to check out the app, try out the premium tier, do your free trial. And just always send feedback.
Fantastic. I, for one, would definitely be going and checking out the app now. It sounds really exciting and I can't wait to have a good look. And, hopefully other people will get to see this podcast and go straight to the app and have a look as well. Thanks ever so much, Ahana, for sharing your business insights today and letting us know all about the product that you've created. It sounds really interesting, and I think you're going to go places. I really do. So thanks ever so much for coming on the call, and I wish you every success for the future.
Thanks so much, Rebecca. Really lovely to chat with you today.
You too. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.